Good evening, Saints. Abariako wanted to take some time to talk with you today about building wealth. And when I speak of wealth, I'm not just talking about finances, not just talking about money. We're talking about holistic wealth. Your health, yourself, as well as your wealth includes your finance and material life. So let's talk about how to build wealth, or some of the topics of building wealth in America and Africa. Let's talk about some opportunities. Let's talk about challenges. And let's talk about some pathways forward. Now, as we introduce this topic to you, all of us are interested in wealth in one form or another. Usually it's financial wealth that we're mainly interested in. So we're going to talk about that. But I also want to expand your thinking to think about wealth in other areas also. Now, let's define a definition of wealth in wealth building specifically. Wealth building is the process of generating long-term income and assets through smart financial decisions, entrepreneurship, investment, and economic opportunities in both America as well as Africa. We're going to see that individuals and communities all over the world are striving for economic empowerment, financial freedom, and generational wealth. However, the paths to achieving wealth differ significantly due to varying economic structures and circumstances around the world. It even has to be placed in historical context, and we have to learn how to access the right resources. So let's talk about wealth building in America, then we'll talk about wealth building in Africa, and perhaps this is applicable to other parts of the world as well. One of the key strategies for wealth creation is the one that's most commonly used to generate income for yourself, is employment and income growth. You see, stable jobs in sectors like tech, healthcare, finance contribute to a steady income. Whatever stream you use, most people generally start with a job as their source of income, and that's the first measure that they try to use to generate what we call wealth. The second phase that we'll talk about today is entrepreneurship. That is small businesses and side hustles. They also play a major role in creating financial independence for people. In fact, many people have a steady 9-to-5 job, as we call it in America, and they have a side hustle or a part-time job. And of course, in America, you know that sometimes people work 2 or 3 jobs. But the key that we're talking about today is not working to make money. We're talking about wealth building. Once you get into a position of wealth building, you no longer have to work 2 or 3 jobs. In fact, once you start to build wealth, you don't have to work any jobs at all. So we'll talk about how you can get to that level, because it is definitely possible to happen. Another way that people try to generate wealth is through stock market investment, real estate, stocks, and retirement accounts like 401ks. They can be central to wealth building as well. Another way that's very popular in America is through home ownership. We know that real estate maintains a cornerstone of middle-class wealth in America. And then another way that people try to build wealth is through education. We know that higher education often leads to better paying jobs, though rising student debt is a concern in America. So those are some of the strategies for wealth building in America. And you can have a combination of all these things, which will put you in a best situation. Now, let's talk about some of the challenges. Now, we know that America has a racial wealth gap. African American and Hispanic households typically have significantly less wealth than their white households. Let's talk about why that is. One is the cost of living. Because of high housing, healthcare, and educational costs, they reduce what's called disposable income. We also see that debt plays a big part of the crisis or the challenges. Credit card debt, student loans, and medical bills limit your savings potential. I just touched on a word that's going to be very key if you're going to look at building wealth is savings. We'll talk more about that later. So that's some of the ways that we look to build wealth in America and some of the challenges that present itself. Now let's look at wealth building in Africa. Here are some key strategies for wealth creation. In Africa, it generally may focus around agribusiness and land use. Farming, livestock, and agri-tech provide major income sources, especially in the rural areas. Also, you'll find entrepreneurship and informal trade. That is, small-scale trade and micro-enterprises form the backbone of most African economies. And again, we see real estate and infrastructure development is one of the ways people seek to build wealth in Africa. We know that urban expansion creates opportunities in construction and property investment. And here in Kenya, we see a lot of that taking place. And then we see the digital economy. Mobile banking like M-Pesa in Kenya. They have fintech and e-commerce. They are rapidly transforming wealth access because it levels the playing field by giving the average person access to the global markets. And then also in Africa, we see diaspora investment. That is, remittances and diaspora funded projects play a growing role in capital formation on the continent of Africa. Now let's talk about some of the challenges in Africa. There is limited access to capital because many Africans lack access to formal banking and credit. And this allows a great opportunity for those in the West, in America, to find how to connect and partner with people here in Africa. Particularly, I'm located in Kenya, where we can help fund some businesses and some projects that can help generate income. There's also, in Africa, you may find political and economic instability. You may find inflation, corruption, and its inconsistent policies may discourage outsiders from investing in certain African countries. Now, of course, we have political and economic stability in America, as it is in most countries around the world. But we'll find that this is one of the challenges that really affect wealth creation in Africa. A third challenge that we see in Africa is education and skills gap. That some people think that there's a mismatch between education systems and job market needs, and that hinders employment and innovation. But I've certainly found that there are a lot of highly educated people here in Kenya and across the continent of Africa. What I find missing most is just the access to capital, some access to some expertise, and mentoring can really help turn the tide for many people in Africa. Now that brings me to my fourth point about wealth building in America and Africa, and that is opportunities for collaboration between America and Africa. One of the first ways we can collaborate is through investment and trade partnerships. You see, African markets offer high growth opportunities in agriculture, energy, real estate, as well as tech. So American investors and African entrepreneurs can benefit from mutual partnerships and venture capital exchanges. A second area that we can see how a partnership can be formed is by knowledge transfer and training. We can start programs that focus on digital skills, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy can help bridge the wealth gap across continents. And then a third way is diaspora engagement. You see, the African diaspora in America can serve as a bridge, investing in businesses, education, real estate, and philanthropy back home. And all of these things are being done on greater and lesser scales, but I really want to introduce this idea and thinking to someone in the audience who may be new and thinking that you can't really afford to invest money in Africa. And I'm trying to also encourage those on the continent of Africa to position yourselves where others will find you as a viable option or opportunity in which they can invest in and help you build businesses and establish good partnerships across the continents. So let's talk about pathways forward now. What are some of the pathways forward for building generational wealth? The first thing is financial literacy and education. I find that many people, both in America as well as Africa, do not simply have a basic understanding of financial literacy. That is saving, reducing debt, paying cash for things, not spending so much on credit. But if you are going to use credit, use it wisely to help build wealth. It also means that we must promote budgeting, saving, investing, and risk management at an early age. The sooner we teach our children in the next generation how to build financial education and literacy, the quicker we can build generational wealth. A second way is policy support. We want to encourage governments to create environments that support small business growth, like tax incentives and investment programs that would allow the average person who don't have necessarily a lot of money available to get the chance to invest. Now in America, there's a program called Cash App where you can invest small amounts into the stock market. So you don't have to have thousands of dollars. You can put $10, $5, $20 into these accounts. You choose the amount and you get a percentage of the stock in major companies operating nationally as well as internationally. So I'll leave a post in this description for this video if you're interested in checking that out. There are also high yield savings account. The average bank account at a normal bank would give you maybe a 0.3 or 0.5% interest. But a high yield savings account can give you, at least the ones that I use called Ally Bank, give you 3.6% interest just for keeping your money in the bank. So starting small is the key to this. You don't have to have a lot, but those small numbers add up. Start setting aside a little bit every paycheck to start building the seed for your generational wealth. All right, so we have to think about supporting small business growth through government policies, as I mentioned, tax incentive and investment protection. A third way is through inclusive banking and digital finance. We know now that cryptocurrency is big all around the world now. So we must expand access to mobile money, microloans. There's a program called Kiva that I see they offer microloans to people in nations all over the world. I'll leave a link to that where you can give $25 as one person who give money towards someone who may need $4,000. You get 20 people who give $25. The person pays the money back. So that's one of the ways that we can help bridge the gap between those who have access to capital and those who do not. And we do similar programs here at our Business Development Center in Kenya, where we do small investments for startups and entrepreneurs. So that's one of the ways we can do it, through mobile money, microloans, low-cost banking services for those who are in unbanked communities. And then a fourth way is to focus on women and youth. See, when we can think about programs that really help build a foundation for our societies, this is not to exclude men, but we find that most women and children are more disadvantaged with opportunities than men are. So we want to empower women and youth through targeted entrepreneurship programs, grants, as well as mentorship. So we've been talking today about building wealth in America and Africa. We talked about some of the opportunities, we talked about some of the challenges that present themselves, and we also talked about some of the ways that we can build pathways forward toward building generational wealth. Now, in conclusion for this lesson today, we understand that building wealth is not a one-size-fits-all journey. While America may have more mature financial systems and higher access to capital, Africa presents immense untapped potential and youthful energy. So by learning from each other, investing wisely, and fostering cross-continental collaboration, individuals and communities can build sustainable wealth that spans generations. If you're interested in learning more about these opportunities in Africa, particularly here in Kenya, We look forward to hearing from you. You can contact us through our website, Affordable African Horizons. That's www.affordableafricanhorizons.com, where we can have conversations with you about how we can connect with people on the continent here, as well as looking for those who may be in America, who may be looking for a bridge to the continent. We love to hear from you, so we can try to connect and partner you with someone that you can collaborate with to help build generational wealth on both sides of the ocean. Well, that's all the time I'm going to take for today. Thank you for allowing me this time. I look forward to hearing from you. God bless and prosper you, and let's work together to build wealth for each other. Ciao.